Hi folks, welcome to another episode of NYC CNC. It is a beautiful day here. It's a gorgeous day outside. We're harvesting corn right now, which is always an exciting time of year. And I actually haven't gotten to see it since like 1997, since I left Ohio. So that puts me in a great mood. And for all of you that were on Facebook or Instagram, you saw yesterday was an awesome day. Went down with my worker Jared to Cincinnati. The machine shop was closing up and had a great time. I had my eye on a Bridgeport. I wanted to get a Bridgeport. We're going to talk a lot about whether it was the right buy or not, or the right price or not in this little video, and managed to pick up some other stuff as well. So super excited to share it with you. Definitely a better auction than the one I went to a few weeks ago, just because this was a production machine shop. That was more of a hobby kind of guy. So before I dive in, I wanted to talk about real quick, I tried my best to be prepared for this auction. I had my auction item list with me, the directions, I had my checkbook. I brought pipes to roll a Bridgeport on. I brought hydraulic, little toe jacks and hydraulic jacks to move it around. I brought winches and come-alongs. I brought 10,000 pound, high quality ratchet tie downs. I brought even some chain. So I was all set on all that. Three things I wish I had brought that I didn't bring, that I'll just throw out, presumptively assuming that you would forget the things I would forget, are rope, zip ties, and most importantly, this stuff. I really should have thought to bring not only the small roll like this, but everyone's got the big 24, 30-inch type rolls that you use to wrap pallets or whatever. It's super inexpensive. I think these days you can even get it at like Staples and Walmart or Costco. It's no longer relegated to just the industrial world. And that would have been helpful for a couple of reasons. One, some guys that were buying cabinets and drawers and stuff, you can wrap it, and that keeps it all tidy when you're driving it and moving it. But we had to deal with rain in the forecast. Thank God it didn't actually rain, but it looked ominous, and it rained for like 2 seconds. And so we pulled over and we put tarps over it. Bring tarps, by the way, with rubber bands or bungee cords. And I probably still would have tarped it, but boy, it would have been so easy and so quick to wrap the Bridgeport or just about anything else, the welder we bought, with that stuff just to get it home with. So that was my little list of being prepared, but great auction. I took some footage at the auction, which I'm going to post here, and I'll narrate post auction, if you will. But first, let's go look through at what I bought, and then I don't know if this is something that's just me or more than just me. This is a common thing for folks to be inclined to do, but it's really easy to want to exaggerate the deal you got or the price you paid. And I don't know whether that's human nature or whether it's a idiosyncrasy to me, but it's kind of like when you hear about people coming back from Vegas. If they were even, that means they lost a lot of money, and if they were down a little, they were actually down a lot. So I promise to you, I'm just going to tell you what I bought, and we're going to talk about the price, and you guys may agree, you may disagree. The one thing I will say as a preempt to all this is I would ask that you keep in mind that I took a day off work. I brought my worker who's on the clock, and I brought a truck with a trailer. We drove 3 hours round trip. It was a good enough auction that I deemed it worthy to do that. And you know what? I didn't want to come home empty-handed. So the Bridgeport table was a little bit more beat up than I wanted it to be, or would have been nice to be. And folks on Facebook were saying, real time as I was posting pictures, oh, don't pay more than $1,500. Well, I paid more than $1,500, and I'm okay with that, because this isn't. It's a nuance, but this is not a blanket excuse to overpay for anything. But what I would ask you to remember is that I needed a Bridgeport. There were 2 jobs in the past month where it took me hours to perform because I didn't have a Bridgeport, and I don't want to take another day off. I like this one because it was variable speed. I have tracked a dozen that were not variable speed. I got to see this in person, relatively close. It just came together, and I'll just tell you, I paid $2,000 for it, not in counting the 12% broker's fee or auctioneer's fee. So I'll look at my numbers here, but let's just figure it out. So 10% of 2,000 would be 200 plus another 2%, 40, so like 2240. Some of you are going to say, "Oh man, you could have got that for $1,500." Look, I didn't. I'm still happy I bought it. That's pending getting it all hooked up. I had the chance to run it in person. I had the spindle on. The DRO is on, and it comes with a DRO. It has power feed on the X, not on the Y. So this to me is what I wanted, and the other way of thinking about it is rather getting so hung up on did I get a good deal or a good price, you kind of got to factor in those criteria. A lot of the times when I've seen Bridgeports go for $1,500 or $1,800, they didn't have a Mitutoyo DRO, or you weren't able to see them in person, and those two things are worth it alone. And then, like it or not, you've got a sunk cost in getting there and back. Now, I would have walked in a heartbeat if I knew there was something wrong with this mill. But again, it goes back to you can focus on how much you paid for it, which again, this is not an excuse to overpay for anything, or you can look at, are you going to make money with it? And I'm going to make money with it. So that kind of means I'm okay if it, it's waiting 2 more months to find one for $300 or $700 cheaper. Anyways, enough rambling. Let's go take a look at the stuff. First things first, I have wanted a bigger surface plate for a long time. It's just super handy for doing layout work, inspection work, and checking stuff. And I had honestly wanted, this is an 18 by 24. I wanted a 24 by 36, which is a lot bigger. There were a couple that came up for auction 2 weeks ago, and I wasn't there in person, so I would have driven to get them. And they went for like, I don't remember, $500 or $600, which I thought was bonkers. I don't remember what they were on Enco, but looking them up, didn't seem like it was a big discount at all. So this one came up, it's 3 inches, 18/24. Again, got to see it in person and check it out. It was in great condition. And I was a little nervous. I thought this was going to go for more than I thought. So I'm going to chalk this one up as a darn good buy, $65. I wasn't even planning on buying this little cart that it was on, but I was going to have my Jared, who the guy who works for me, who is more of a welder than a machinist, although he is a trained machinist, just have us stick one together real quick. But when the bidding sort of stalled at $20, I lobbed in a bid at $25 and took it. So $25 for a heavy angle steel cart like this, and nice good condition wheels on it. I'll take that all day long. Just to be clear, none of the stuff on top was included. This was $65, and then the cart was $25. 6-inch swivel vise. This was actually kind of an impulse purchase in that I wasn't focused on it. Jared had mentioned, hey, I like those swivel vices, and we would need a big vise for the Bridgeport. And I sort of said, what is it? And they said it was a Kurt on the auction tear sheet. And I quickly looked at it. This is like seconds before the bidding started. And I said, I don't see any, I don't know Kurt vices that well, but it's not blue. And one of the guys next to me who I'd been talking to, who works at a real machine shop, said, we've got a Kurt that looks just like that. And he didn't have any reason to fib to me. So I don't know whether it's a Kurt or not. I will take a look. But $175 for a 6-inch swivel vise, I'm fine with all day long. Not like a steal, but still a pretty darn good price. Here is the biggest purchase of the day. This is a Miller 300DX TIG Welder. Includes the water-cooled torch system. It has not too many accessories with it. The drawer down here has got some cups and collets in it, but nothing crazy. So this was, I was trying to think how to describe this on video to you guys, and just being honest, I have never TIG welded in my life, like literally never ever touched a TIG welder while it's on. And this was not cheap. This was $2,900. But here's why I bought it. Jared, who works for me, has done a huge amount of TIG welding. There have been a ton of applications where I wanted to weld aluminum, which is absolutely something that's going to get used a lot for. And then there are applications where we will TIG weld steel. We've gotten around that though with either stick or MIG, so that's hard to justify the kind of money for that right now at least. But then there are a lot of applications where where this will get used, both stuff we do as well as job shop stuff. And the other reason, which is more personal, is that I really want to learn how to TIG weld. It looks absolutely amazing. I've enjoyed watching Jody over at Welding Tips and Tricks TIG weld. I love watching Keith Fenner TIG weld. Adam Booth as well on his channel, ABOM79. So you could absolutely, I think, teach yourself to TIG weld with a much cheaper machine than this. But again, because I've got Jared on board now and he's running a lot of welding here, I didn't have a problem. And on that note, the research I had done earlier was focused on the Lincoln 275, and they actually had one of those at the auction today. Jared has run this machine for years, though, elsewhere, and he knows it well, and that made it that made it worth it. And I had researched these briefly, and there are a lot of comments on the Miller forums and Welding Web and so forth that just say this is one of the best machines or favorite machines anybody's ever run. So hopefully it'll last a long time, and hopefully it'll prove to be a wise decision. The Lincoln, I don't know how to describe its condition, but it went for $2,400, and the Miller, there was a lot of interest in this thing, and like I said, it went for $2,900. So we'll see what you guys say. Too late either way, but Jared had looked up online what he thought they were going for, and he thought maybe $3,000. So no sales tax, did have to pay the auction fee, but got to see it in person. Did not get to turn it on. It was disconnected from a hard wire. So absolutely some risk there, and maybe we paid too much, but I bet this thing's going to get used a lot, and I am personally super excited to learn how to TIG weld and to some extent share that process with you if it's something that makes sense or you guys are interested in. Okay, next up, regular parts washer. Jared and I both wanted one of these. It'll absolutely get used. I feel a little self-conscious. I bid it up to $55 and won it at that price. But after the auction fees, that's like $63. I'm thinking, wait a minute here. I think, and I got to look, that these are like $100 new for Harbor Freight, and you can usually get pretty crazy discount deals, even 25% or more. So maybe this wasn't actually a steal. But anyways, it is what it is. I'm glad to have one, and if I paid $10 too much, oops. And here she is. Real quick before we get to the Bridgeport, I picked up this box of taper drills, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the thickest one being 1 3/8 high-speed steel. These were $50. I like those because I use them on that blue drill press, and you can usually resharpen them, although I think these are in pretty good condition. 2 V-blocks, ground hardened V-blocks for $40. I think that's okay deal, not a steal. A set of corner rounding end mills, which I really have wanted to these. I've had a few projects that I either had to ask the customer to change to a chamfer or not bid on because I didn't have the ability to cut with these. So I'm excited to get these and try these. A Char set of, I think, 8 of these is like $175. So I don't want to misspeak. I'm 99% sure I paid $65 for all these. The largest one does appear to have a little bit of wear on it. The others seem to be in pretty good condition. So we'll see how that goes. Actually, set these down. And here she is. So rather than show up every little nook and cranny and face and so forth, I'm going to do a whole nother video or probably a series on getting to know this machine. I've actually have incredibly little time. I've probably run a Bridgeport for about an hour in my life. So I have a lot to learn. At the flip side, between running different machines and don't laugh, but like watching Keith Fender and other folks on YouTube, I'm certainly excited, and I'm not really intimidated. I really appreciate the input from you guys on comments on YouTube as well as on my Facebook page. Lots of great tips and tricks. You guys were like live posting as I was at the auction, posting pictures and questions, which is awesome. And the big thing is a number of people said, don't pay more than $1,500. There's better out there. Don't sell yourself short. One guy mentioned it's not a great year. And I'll go back to what I mentioned earlier in the video, which is I had to make a decision. Is there a reason this mill's not going to do what I need it to do? And you sort of heard me already talk about that. Yeah, look, I still could be walking into a huge problem here, but I did have a chance to turn the spindle on. I was doing my research, and you want to, I guess, make sure you don't hear a clicking or knocking in these variable speeds, because that can mean you've got a worn, almost like a keyway or something. I don't remember, and I didn't hear that. It seemed to run smoothly. The downfeed worked, so I made the call that I was going to bid it up to like $2,000, $2,100, because I just knew if we were driving home with an empty trailer and it sold for $2,200 and a job comes up next week where it would have been handy, darn it, I wish I would have bought it. So I made the call. Time will tell whether that's good or not. The only other thing I always like to think about is, okay, if I use it for a month or two and I find a better one, you could fire sale it for 1,500 bucks. You know, I don't know, probably a pretty decent price. It also has an installed Mitsutoyo DRO. I know the Mitsutoyo brand is incredibly good. I know nothing about their DROs. That's something I have learned about in my little hunt for the VMC is, you know, it's a race to the bottom, and companies like Mazak, I think, unfortunately, are putting out like value lines to compete with Haas, and it's no longer safe to just assume you see a certain brand name and it's a quality level that you expect before. No different than some of the American measuring tool companies are now either south of the border or far east. So the world we live in. But like I said, I got to run it. I got to see it in person. They loaded it up for me. I paid $40 for a guy in a forklift to load everything you saw today. That cart and that plate are pretty darn heavy. The welder we could have got on our own, and then they loaded this up. And actually, instead of me rambling, I'm going to start the footage here from the auction, which was with my iPhone, so sorry it's not the same quality, and we'll have fun narrating through that. Prototrack went for $5,000. Here you can see the Cincinnati, that sold for $300. The lathe on the left. This vertical machining center here sold for under $10,000, but the company that makes the controller is no longer around, so that's the big risk there. Prototrack went for $22,500. Surface grinder went for about $9,000, I think, in my notes here. That lathe was something unusual about it that I didn't know, and it sold for $3,500. I think there is, again, a controller issue or a quality issue. The brake, one went for $1,100, one went for $500. This OBI press that you just saw there real quick, that blue one, sold for $50. I wish I had bought it. Man, $50 for that. But I was worried about not having the ability to rig it home. This bandsaw sold for just shy of $3,000. It's a 16-inch well saw. It seemed expensive to me, but I don't know this stuff. Waterjet, $32,000. Not a lot of interest. Two guys, I could tell they wanted more for it. So here we are, though. Auction's over. The guy who was running the forklift had moved. Nice guy, wasn't arrogant, but he said, I moved 1,000 of these Bridgeports. He actually didn't see that it was on bolts that were anchored into the concrete, so he backs up here for just a split second. Oh, we caught him. And 4x4 under the spindle horizontal column there, and out we go. I'll fast forward here. Here we go. Just we moved the forklift over to the side so we could put it in. Actually, I think we switch it back around again here. To get it. Well, yeah, he was talking about going over the end of the trailer, and I didn't like that, so we switch it again here and move it, pick it up from the front. There we go. And we go. And what are we doing here? Oh, yep, dropping in the steel cart with the surface block and vise on it. And then here we are, we're home. So I gotta just give a shout out to my grandfather. You can see him here, 89 years old. And just, I know everyone loves their grandfather, but I really have a special spot for him. We got home at about 5:30 and he knew we were coming. I gave him a call and he came up and got the shop ready and got the tractor out. And here we are. We already unloaded the welder, but we took the Bridgeport off the same way it was put on. It's actually a little bit easier with the tractor because the forks reach out in front of the chassis. And just used a 4x4 again. You'll watch here in a second. The tractor suspension and tires do drop down a hair, but really no problem at all. We weren't even close to halfway on the hydraulic throttle there. And in she goes. For those of you who followed me in the New York apartment days and even in the suburbs in the basement, you can appreciate what a different life is having not only the shop, but things like the tractor to use on occasions like this. It's a breath of fresh air. It's the right way to do things. It's safer, it's faster. You're not spending days moving things. It takes minutes instead. And again, a special shout out not only to my grandfather, but to Jared, who, aside from taking a day off from his day job, but was a real help in getting everything coordinated and strapped down and all that kind of fun stuff. So I think that's wrapping up here the footage. Obviously, appreciate all of your enthusiasm, appreciate your help along the way. Some really, really great input and feedback from folks as I was looking to shop for Bridgeport. I think it's somewhat ironic that I've owned a CNC mill now for so many years, and I'm so excited for a simple manual Bridgeport. So good things to come. I definitely am going to do a video or more on getting it ready, and I'll leave it at that, folks. Take care. See you soon.